Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tragic Hollywood on the Town Star of the Week. This week, we'll be talking about the gorgeous Gail Russell. Painfully shy as a girl, continued to be shy, used alcohol to get over her shyness. Let's find out how that worked out. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tragic Hollywood on the Town Star of the Week. This week, we're going to be talking about the really sad story of the beautiful, doe-eyed, fragile actress from the 1940s. Her name was Gail Russell. Lots of people don't know who Gail Russell was, but if you're a fan of the 1940s Gothic movies, you might remember her in a little film called The Uninvited with Ray Milland. This was such a creepy movie. When I first saw it as a kid, it haunted me for years and years. It was so creepy. And she was beautiful in it, and it put her on the map. And she was perfect for the role. And she was actually very similar to the frightened little skittish bird-like creature that she played in the movie. In real life, she was very, very painfully shy. So before we get into Gail Russell, I'd like to remind everybody that my page is 100% AI free, so support non-AI content on YouTube. Also, please like and subscribe, but most importantly, I'm begging you guys to watch the videos. I need the watched hours, or this channel will never be monetized, and you guys will never be annoyed with annoying ads interrupting my videos. So anyway, just kind of watch the video and like and share and leave a really nice comment. Let me know if you know who Gail Russell was. Let me know if you've ever seen her in any movies, in particular The Uninvited. Also, let me know who you'd like to see profiled on this channel, and I will take all suggestions into consideration. So let's get into Gail Russell. She was born in Chicago in 1924 into a middle-class family, but it was immediately apparent from the time she was a toddler how painfully shy she was. She used to hide under the grand piano of their home so that people wouldn't see her when guests came over. She was like a little skittish kitten in that regard, or maybe even your cat's like that, where they hide when strangers come to your house. Well, she was like that as a child. She found refuge and solace in art. And so she began honing her artistic abilities from a very, very young age. She was very good at art. She was considered a budding art protege. But unfortunately for Gail Russell, she was also considered a stunning beauty. Even before she hit her teenage years, she was like Elizabeth Taylor in this regard. She was stunning as a child. And her beauty became almost overwhelming as she grew and became a teenager. So, of course, when her parents moved to La La Land, Los Angeles, California, of course, the first thing everyone said was, oh, you've got to go to the studios. They'll put you in pictures right away. You're so beautiful. I've written a chapter about Gail Russell in my upcoming book that should be out within the next 6 months. And I'm going to read a little bit in the chapter in this book about how I described Gail Russell. Her beauty, however, was also exceptional, catching the eye of talent scouts of several studios. She had thick raven hair, dark, almost violet blue eyes, set like perfect saucers in her alabaster face. Her lips were full and pointy, like a child's. And she exhibited an innocence that made her extremely appealing. She was dubbed the Hedy Lamarr of Santa Monica because of her striking resemblance to the famous star. She was still too young to be exploited in film, as the industry waited until she had graduated from high school. Nice of them. But as soon as Gail Russell graduated high school, Paramount snapped her up and signed her to a 7-year contract at $50 whole a week. I don't even think this was her idea. I think she wanted to study art, but her parents convinced her that this was a good idea. $50 a week meant that she was making more money than her father. at the age of 18 at that time. So she signed the contract. Problem was, beautiful as she was, she couldn't act. She acted like a mannequin pretty much when she was on screen. She was still painfully shy, and here she was thrust in front of cameras, in front of strangers on a set every day, and she was petrified. So she would stand there like a wooden stick half the time, and the expression on her face was either non-existent or it looked like she was in pain and wishing she were somewhere else. So she had to take acting lessons to get over this, but she never ever really fully recovered from her extreme stage fright. Her shyness morphed into stage fright. She was cast in a movie, a little kind of a nothing movie called Henry Aldrich Gets Glamour. And these were a series of films, sort of like the Andy Hardy films that MGM was producing, about an awkward teenager who goes through different phases and hilarity ensues. She was in this movie, but she didn't really get very good reviews and she wasn't noticed very well. But the following year, she was in the movie that really put her on the map. And that was a big gothic extravaganza called The Uninvited, with one of the best actors of the day, Ray Milland. And she played the daughter of a wealthy woman who had died and supposedly haunted this mansion that Ray Milland and his sister had decided to purchase. So she wasn't the daughter's not as upset that the home where her mother lived and died was purchased, and she was upset that the family sold it off. And so she's initially hostile towards the brother and sister, but then she becomes friendly with them because the thing's haunted. It's haunted as hell. And you even see the ghost. I mean, it's not like just something throwing things around and you can't see it. There was an actual special effect where you saw the ghost in this film. It made a big impression on me, and I was just a little kid, but I thought and still think that the effects in this movie hold up against even CGI to this day. They were subtle, but they were really effective. And her performance was very effective because she's essentially playing herself, this frightened, scared to death, little doe-eyed thing who needs protecting all the time. And everybody, I think she was billed as the new discovery of the year, Gail Russell in The Uninvited. She got pretty good billing in that movie, despite the heavyweights that she was co-starring with. So her career was off and rolling, but she still had to deal with this painful stage fright. So somebody had a solution to this, and we're not really sure who. Somebody suggested she take a little drinky poo before each scene so she can get through with it. This was probably happened on the set of The Uninvited. She was very hard to work with on The Uninvited due to her shyness. She could only get through 1 or 2 takes before she would run off crying if the director said the slightest harsh word to her. So someone said, hey, why don't you, this will help steady your nerves. She said, okay, why not? Somebody give her vodka. I mean, straight up vodka. So this seemed to work. On The Uninvited, she was able to complete that film. And she made 3 or 4 other films in a row after that. So she was on her way. But she began drinking. This was the beginning of the end for Gail Russell because when she started, she couldn't stop. And she needed the alcohol so that she could overcome her personal demons and inner obstacles to get through a picture. Then in 1947, she was cast in a movie, as a Quaker girl and the love interest to the nasty John Wayne gunslinger. And the movie was called Angel and the Bad Man. And this was a mistake because she and Wayne immediately had some type of chemistry with each other. Problem was, John Wayne was married at the time. And they ended up making 2 films together, but there were ugly rumors about they're possibly having an affair. And I'm not sure if they were having an affair, but I know that John Wayne's wife thought they were having an affair because she took a pot shot at him one night when he came home from the studio with a gun. She missed, but yeah, I think that was the end of their marriage after that. I think John Wayne tried to save Gail Russell. He was much older than her, and he could see that she was already slipping into self-destructiveness with the drinking because she continued to drink on the set. And I think John Wayne was trying to save her from herself. And I think maybe he was infatuated with her. Who wouldn't? She was really beautiful. I mean, but again, she had more than her beauty. She had like this innocence about her, like this, oh, we need to protect her type of innocence about her that few actresses had at that time. Then John Wayne asked her to be his co-star in another film. And you could imagine how this went over with his wife. So they ended up in divorce court, and poor Gail Russell, who was already fragile to begin with, was dragged into this mess and forced to testify at their divorce court hearing and sit on the stand and be accused of being the other woman by John Wayne's wife's lawyer. And she was absolutely humiliated and destroyed by this. And it led to her, unfortunately, deciding to drink even harder. In 1950, Paramount dropped her contract because she wasn't making enough of a splash to keep it going. She wasn't a big enough star, and all of these scandals with John Wayne and the rumors of her uncontrolled drinking led to them making the business decision that she wasn't worth keeping around. So they dropped her contract, and she began to spiral. She did marry Guy Madison, another really cute actor, but she began getting in trouble with the law. She began getting drunk driving arrests and drunk driving tickets. And she spent the night in jail over it 1953. And her husband decided he didn't need this, and he divorced her also. So she found herself a little bit rudderless. In 1954, she suffered an acute hepatitis attack and was in a coma for a little while. And so this knocked her down even further. She couldn't get work after that. So the film roles dried up after that. So here she is, she's in a downward spiral. She can't get work. So what does she do? She just sits home in her apartment and drinks. In 1955, she was in another drunk driving accident when she struck a car of a couple and their infant. And they sued her in civil court and won a $30,000 judgment. Gail didn't have $30,000. That was a lot of money in 1954. And she didn't have $30,000. So they garnished every bit of money she would make after that. I'm going to read this paragraph in my latest book. In 1956, John Wayne came to the rescue, sort of. The Star was producing a Western called 7 Men from Now, starring Randolph Scott. And he cast Gail as Scott's love interest. This is a twisted little film that might or might not have inspired Clint Eastwood's unconventional film, The Unforgiven. It's a very dark and anti-hero plot line that was unusual for the day. Gail gave one of her best performances, and it seemed like she might be on the precipice of a comeback. Unfortunately, looks can be deceiving. The only other substantial film she made after that was called The Tattered Dress. It was a good movie, but she was fourth billed in that movie. She was fourth billed behind someone named Jack Carlson. So, I mean, nobody really remembers her in that movie because it wasn't a very substantial part. And the movie was not all that successful. In July of 1957, she was driving blind drunk down Sunset Boulevard when she plowed her car into the front of Jan's diner. This was a famous diner, and it was there for many years. Celebrities would go there all the time. A little diner on, with the big glass windows. And she pinned a janitor under her car who happened to be working late that night, shattering the glass, and she was completely drunk. And the cops had her out on the sidewalk, doing the sobriety test, where she has to touch her nose with her fingers like this and walk the line. And she failed miserably. But being Hollywood, there was a photographer there, and he took pictures of this. And then later on, I guess somebody was interviewing her. She said, I had a drink too. I don't care. I don't remember. Who cares? Not a good look for her. And she looked terrible. I had her hair in a do-rag, and she looked far older than her, I think, 30 years as she was at this time. She was like maybe 31, 32. She was very young at this time. She looked like she was about 50 in these pictures. And then the big story wasn't what movie she was making. The big story was, wow, what happened to this actress? She had everything. She was so beautiful. What's going on with Gail Russell? This was in the 50s, and people didn't go to clinics to dry out. I guess there was Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know why Gail never really tried to get help. She clearly needed it. But the courts just kept giving her a pass, giving her $400 fines or $300 fines. She was supposed to appear in court for the Jan's diner incident, and she didn't. So the cops broke down her apartment, found her drunk and passed out in her apartment. Courts fined her again, just let her go. Didn't mandate treatment or anything helpful like that. So she continued to do bit parts in different various movies, but nothing like her glory days. Yeah, it's very sad what happened to her. So I'm going to read this part in my book. Sadly, Gail would not return to films. On August 28th, she was found dead inside her home by two neighbors who had not seen her all weekend. She had been dead for at least 2 days. She was lying on the floor, surrounded by her art and several dozen empty vodka bottles. Her liver had finally given out due to 2 decades of abuse. She also had terminal aspiration of her stomach contents, just like Jimi Hendrix, which meant she had thrown up while passed out and choked on her own vomit. She was only 36 years old. Do you know how hard you have to work at killing yourself with booze to die at the age of 36? Many people in Hollywood managed to do it, and Gail Russell managed to do it as well. That'll do it for the sad story of Gail Russell. Please leave a comment below if you know who Gail Russell was, if you've seen any of her films. Please check out my books. She's going to be in the new book, and then I have 3 books out already. Tragic Hollywood, Beautiful, Glamorous, and Dead. Tragic Hollywood, Beautiful, Glamorous, and Still Dead. And my novel, Goodbye, Angel, Goodbye. All available on Amazon. I have a link in the description on the channel if you want to check them out. Thank you, and I will see you next week.